TechNet Saturday at 7 p.m. W5FC.
Okay, I'm going to be starting Skynet in about 5 minutes. If you need to use the repeater, please do so in the next few minutes. This is N5BB.
This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
Anyone need to use the repeater? We've got 1 minute until Skynet. This is N5BB.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
This is N5BB. My name is Bill. Now I'll be your net control station for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateur radio operators interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the approach sign break in your call sign. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. Stations are reminded to identify the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. And net control is monitoring Echolink, so you can put text things in there, and I will see them. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio and video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can also now check in the net electronically going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look for tonight's announcement and click on the hot link to check in. Fill the form out. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we will continue to do that too, over the air and Echolink. All amateur radio operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The unit is 90 minutes long, structured in several parts: general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening by the net control, was up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launch of the week, visible satellite passages, and if we have any astronomical questions and answers. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So currently on the check-in form at w5fc.org, we have the following stations checked in. I'd like to recognize KE5ICX, Tom, K5MCD, that's Cody, NT5TM, Tony, N5BB, that's myself, Bill, WB5OZL, Brenda, W5LIG, Dale, KF5JHA, Chaz, with his sidekick, Bob the Cat, AA5AH, Robert, and Richardson. Okay, so that's everybody that's checked in so far. Do we have any short-time check-ins? If so, this is on RF. We'll do Echolink later. Any short-time check-ins, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is November 5, Bravo, Bravo, and this is Skynet looking for short-time check-ins. Once again, do we have any short-time check-ins to Skynet? None heard. So let's look for general RF check-ins. If you'd like to check into Skynet via RF, please come down with your name, your call sign, and your location. Over.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob in Farmers Branch.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI, Ted Dallas Low Power.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in North Carrollton. This is Whiskey 5, Golf Uniform Sierra, it's Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
November, Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Golf Hotel, Nick, Carrollton.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Foxtrot Charlie, David, North Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Foxtrot, Kilo Golf, Cecil in Mesquite.
Okay, let's pause there. I recognize KG5UFR, Jacob, WB4MFI, Ted. It was good seeing you earlier today, Ted. KG5WVL, James, W5GUS, Gus, ND5F, Virginia, KG5WGH, Nick, KF5PFC, David, KG5FKG, Cecil. Do we have any other RF check-ins for Skynet? If so, please come now. This is N5BD, Net Control. Nothing heard. Let's look at Echolink. Does anyone on Echolink want to check in on voice? If so, please come now. This is Skynet, November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Net Control. Looking for Echolink check-ins that haven't already checked in. Nothing heard. Okay, going back to the web form. After Robert, A5AH in Richardson, I now have Clay, N5OF in Mesquite. So let me go through the whole list real quickly. Make sure you're on this list if you want to be checked into Skynet. KE5ICX, K5MCD, NT5TM, N5BB, WB5OZL, N5LIG, KF5JHA, AA5AH, N5OF, KG5UFR, WB4MFI, KG5WVL, W5GUS, NV5S, KG5WGH, KS5PFC, and KG5FKG. Do we have any other check-ins to Skynet, the any mode? If so, please come now. Nothing heard. Okay, now let's start with general announcements. Does anybody have any announcements for the net around concerning amateur radio, astronomy, space, something to be of general interest to licensed hams? If you do, please come now with your call sign only. This is N5BB.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
I see you typing away, Tony. Go right ahead, NT5TM. Go ahead with your announcements.
Well, Bill, I'm getting sleepy, and I was afraid I would forget to say something important. We've got a big budget movie to talk about tonight. Total Recall from 1990 will be our focus for the Afterglow movie discussion net at about 10:30, 10:35 or so tonight. Please don't forget our Sunday nets tomorrow, the meeting on the air at 7, and the Racy's training net for Racy's appointees at 8 p.m. Ham Fixins, the only net I give a safety warning for, will make us hungry this Monday night at 7 p.m. Yes, eat before the net, then bring your recipes, kitchen stories, and cooking tips to this repeater, and we'll be glad to have you. Please do not forget to sign up for the Marathon and Turkey Trot. Those sign-up links are available at W5FC.org. There's a pinned post. The sooner the Turkey Trot is staffed up and the Marathon has 150 hams, the sooner I can stop repeating this announcement. Go sign up. And the November Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting will be this coming Tuesday. Our topic will be building and using balance, a topic near and dear to my heart, so I'm really excited to hear what another ham has to say. Please find out more details about all of these things at W5FC.org. Thank you, Bill, and thank you for being at control. NT5TM.
Very good. Thank you, Tony. Does anybody else have any other announcements? I've got some, but anybody else have any other announcements before we move forward? This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Okay, first I'll remind everybody that we are going off of daylight saving time early tomorrow morning. So if you have mechanical clocks or electronic ones that don't automatically know about daylight saving time, remember to set them behind. Fall back 1 hour. If the clock shows midnight, set it to 11 p.m. If you get up tomorrow morning and the clock shows 9, set it back to 8 p.m. 8 a.m., I should say. If you don't do that, you'll be off. So, daylight saving time change. The other thing is there is a space-related event by a NASA space ambassador Alejandro, who's going to be giving a talk on Infinity and Beyond, NASA Artemis, and the new space race to the moon. This talk will be tomorrow, Sunday, November the 2nd, at 1 p.m. in the Cosby Public Library in Capel. The C-O-Z-B-Y. You can make a web search for it. The Cosby Public Library in Capel, Texas, starting at 1 p.m. tomorrow. NASA Artemis and the new space race. It'll be in study room F, although it's not very big, so it's hard to not find them if you get there. Learn about the NASA's Space Launch System, SpaceX's Human Landing System, and the Artemis program's goal of returning humanity to the moon. Okay, one last try before we move ahead. Any other check-ins? This is N5BB, and this is Skynet.
November 8, Whiskey Romeo, NAWWR Romeo. Thanks for that.
Hi, Romy. I recognize NAWWR. Okay, AMSAT, the Radio Amateur Satellite Group, has 3 nets available to Dallas residents Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. Check into the National AMSAT net. To do that, you get on Echolink. Under groups, look for asterisk, AMSAT asterisk. There's also a live audio link at www.amsatnet.com. 2 local nets are available on Tuesday evenings, except the first Tuesday of the month. So you won't hear this coming Tuesday. At 8 p.m. on this repeater, there's an AMSAT net. So we're not going to talk any more about it because it won't be on next week, because we'll have the club meeting, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting night on Tuesday evening. On Wednesday evening at 9 p.m., there's another AMSAT satellite net on the Arlington 147.140 megahertz repeater, 110.9 tone, positive offset. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club hosts a number of nets on this repeater on Monday evening. The first Monday of the week, of the month, which is this coming Monday, will be Ham Fixings Net. It's a cooking net. Bring your favorites or new recipes, cooking tips or techniques. And then there's other things going on the other Mondays of the month. Saturdays are the night of nets, where we have TechNet at 7 p.m., all things technical and questions and answers. Skynet at 9 p.m. until 10:30. That's what you're listening to now. The Afterglow Movie Net, starting at 10:30 p.m. Tonight, the Afterglow Movie Net is going to be talking about a movie which is 35 years old, Total Recall, with some big stars in it. Big budget. Tom, KE5ICX, you want to give us an accurate synopsis of this movie?
Oh, Bill, of course I would. Here we go. We'll be back to our virtual reality extravaganza, Total Recall, right after these words from our sponsor. You're experiencing Recall. It's 11 p.m. Shouldn't you be in bed asleep instead of thinking you're a professional weightlifter on a secret agent mission on Mars? Quaid simulated a sigh. It was true. He wasn't getting much sleep while living this simulated existence. Or was he? Did his simulated self actually tire out his real self? Would he know? He wasn't the smartest bulb in the pack, but he could lift heavy weights. And being in this dream sequence that seemed so real, he wasn't sure if it was fake or not. Let's face it, he was dumb as the heavy rocks he could lift. The most unpleasant part of the simulation was the advertising during commercial breaks. First, he was smoking cigarettes. Then he was eating cardboard fast food. After that came the accident attorneys, all huddled around him, trying to get his attention and sign their virtual contracts. He wished he could just shut it all down and enjoy a simulation from 1990, something without super special effects, a simpler, less pixelated time. Join us for, as you've heard from two other people, Total Recall tonight. Oh, by the way, it's from 1990 at 10:30 p.m. And if you want to, you can kind of sneak it in during Skynet. If you go to the link for tonight's Skynet, you'll find Total Recall for the hot link that goes to the free Pluto TV version. I watched it at twice the speed, which means they were moving really fast because I didn't get a chance to see it last night. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
Yeah, Tom, I tried the Pluto link earlier this evening, and it didn't work. So you can check again, but I think the Pluto thing may have timed out today. Oh, my golly. I saw the movie when it originally came out. My fault was it is really violent. That was my fault 35 years ago. Anyway. Now, this is N5BB. This is Skynet. We have some other nets on this repeater. The first and third Sundays, we have the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. It is at 7 p.m. And then at 8 p.m., we have the RACES, the Dallas Amateur Civil Emergency Service Training Net. As with all other nets, what is the first rule of nets? Listen, listen, listen. Do not check in until the appropriate time from net control. And on the RACES net, if you listen, you will learn that you're not allowed to check in legally unless you are a member of RACES. So listen, listen, listen before you check into a net. If you're a new hand, you need to learn that. Okay. Now, there's one more net that occurs. There's the ARL Traffic Net, the National Traffic Systems Traffic Training Net. This is message traffic. These are things like telegrams. So on this repeater, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, it will still be 6:30 p.m. Central Time after the daylight savings time change tomorrow. We have the early traffic net. Then there's a late traffic net on the Irving WA5CKF repeater, 146.72 megahertz. Again with the PL tone of 110.9. This is at 9:30 p.m. So 6:30 p.m. right here on this repeater, and 9:30 p.m. on the Irving 146.72 repeater. Again, everybody's welcome to check in, but listen carefully for the proper time to check in. And if you check in on the traffic net, be prepared to handle a message. If you're not familiar with doing that, no problem. You can learn. Okay, so we talked about the Afterglow movie tonight, and that's it. You can learn all about these Dallas Amateur Radio Club events and nets and all that kind of good stuff. Going to the club website, W5FC.org. And Tony earlier mentioned Turkey Trot. You'll find that front and center if you go to the website now. Sign up for that Turkey Trot net. Okay, one more time. Let's look and see if anybody else. Nope, doesn't look like we have anybody else trying to check in electronically or on Echolink. Would anybody else like to check in here on voice right now? This is N5BB looking for check-ins. Nothing heard. Now it's time for Chaz. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Chaz, what's going on with the test? This is November 5. Bravo, bravo, and this is Skynet.
you, Bill. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. You know, Tom gave a description of Total Recall. It's different than I remember the movie when I saw it in 1990. Okay. Oh, the next meeting of the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas will be on November the 21st. It's usually on the fourth Friday, but because of Thanksgiving, it's moved up to the Friday just before Thanksgiving. The meeting is going to be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. There's also a Zoom component for members. The feature is the Photographic Special Interest Group. And there's also the annual swap meet. If you've got something astronomical that you'd like to sell, bring it, sell it. TASS hosts Saturday night public observing sessions in the area. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights, so it could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. On the first Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, stargazing is held at Fairview. Is there any ham radio operator at the stargazing that would like to make a report? Come down with your call sign.
Uniform 2, Golf Hotel for international guest check-in. Over.
Did you have an astronomy report, or just looking to check into Skynet? I'll let Bill tally that up so it's checked in. So the TASS website is texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. This is KF5JHA, back to our net control in 5BB.
Okay, thank you, Chaz. I heard another station in there was Chaz was looking for people at the viewing site. Was another station trying to check in? If so, now you can do it. Please give your call sign phonetically, your name, and your location. This is Skynet in 5BB Net Control. Go ahead.
This is Bravo.
This is BI4, PPJ, Bravo, India 4,
international guest
from China. Here is Tim, Tango, India. Over.
That was very strange. We had two stations talking at once. Will the Bravo India 4 station go and the other station not talk? The Bravo India 4 station, please go ahead.
This is BI4, PPJ, Bravo, India 4, Papa, Juliet, and I'm located in China. Tim, Tango.
Okay, we have BI4PPJ. Thank you for checking in. Didn't get your name, but I understand that you're in China. Okay, do we have anybody else who would like to check in to Skynet? If so, please come down.
Bravo, Uniform 2, Golf Hotel. Name here is Kim, Kilo India Mike. Just checking from All-Star Link. 2GH is Taipei, Taiwan. Taipei, Taiwan. Over.
Okay, please give your call phonetically again.
Roger, that is Bravo, Uniform 2, Golf Hotel. USL.
Okay. BU2GH in Taiwan. I have you also. Very good, Kim. Okay, do we have anybody else who would like to check into Skynet? If so, please come down. Okay, was somebody else trying to check in? If so, please go ahead. This is N5DB Skynet. I guess not. Okay, next we have National Space Society. I happen to be the North Texas National Space Society Chapter Vice President and Membership Director. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be held on Sunday, November the 9th, a week from tomorrow. Our speaker will be Dr. Zhonggu Xu. He is Associate Professor at the Center for Space Physics and Data Science at the University of Texas at Arlington. His topic is the effects of space weather on satellites and people in low Earth orbit. Dr. Xu holds a PhD in space physics and specializes in solar, wind, magnetosphere, ionospheric coupling, space weather, and instrumentation for autonomous geospace observations. He has led multiple National Science Foundation and NASA-funded research expeditions to Antarctica, deploying instruments to study the polar ionosphere and space weather phenomena. He's currently the principal investigator of the National Space Foundation Daci Aurora project, which aims to develop a low-power autonomous sensor array for high-latitude geospace research. He also serves as chair of the U.S. Ground-Based Magnetometer Array Board, coordinating national efforts to monitor space weather hazards. So, we're looking forward to Dr. Xu talking to us a week from tomorrow. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas Chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. We canceled the event in October because of Halloween, last Friday. We're moving back to our longtime location at Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West I-635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. The next Space Rendezvous will be held the day after Thanksgiving, Friday, November the 28th. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, November 5 Bravo Bravo, at his QRZ listed email address or at space@byrom.net, SPACE@BYROM.net. That's all. Do we have any additional check-ins, questions, or comments? This is Skynet N5DB Net Control. Nothing heard. Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, tell us about the recent astronomical discoveries. WB5OZL. This is N5DB, and this is Skynet.
Oh, thank you, Bill. This is WB5OZL. This article is entitled Webb Reveals the Universe's First Galaxies Were a Chaotic Mess. Astronomers using the James Webb Space Telescope have captured the most detailed look yet at how galaxies formed just a few 100 million years after the Big Bang, and found they were far more chaotic and messy than those we see today. Led by researchers at the University of Cambridge, the team examined over 250 youthful galaxies that existed when the universe was between 800 million and 1.5 billion years old. By tracking the movement of gas within these systems, they found that most were highly unstable, filled with clumps of gas and stars rather than the smooth rotating disks that's seen in mature galaxies such as the Milky Way. The findings, published in monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society, suggest that galaxies slowly transition from chaotic to stable structures as the universe evolved. During the early stages of cosmic history, intense star formation and gravitational forces stirred the gas so violently that many galaxies struggled to settle into steady rotation. We don't just see a few spectacular outliers. This is the first time we've been able to look at an entire population at once, said the first author, Lola Danhave, from Cambridge's Kavli Institute for Cosmology. We found huge variations. Some galaxies are beginning to settle into ordered rotation, but most are still chaotic, with gas puffed up and moving in all directions. To investigate these distant galaxies, the researchers used JWST's NIRCam instrument in a specialized GRISM mode that records faint light from ionized hydrogen gas. Danhave developed a new software to decode the complex data, linking it with images from other JWST surveys to track how gas was moving within each galaxy. Previous results suggested massive, well-ordered disks forming very early on, which didn't fit our models, said co-author Dr. Sandro Tacella of the Kavli Institute in the Cavendish Laboratory. Going to reset. But by looking at hundreds of galaxies with lower stellar masses instead of just one or two, we see the bigger picture, and it's much more in line with theory. Early galaxies were more turbulent, less stable, and grew up through frequent mergers and bursts of star formation. This work helps bridge the gap between the epoch of reionization and the so-called cosmic noon, when star formation peaked, said Danhave, which is also affiliated with the Cavendish Laboratory. It shows how the building blocks of galaxies gradually transition from chaotic clumps into ordered structures, and how galaxies such as the Milky Way formed. The study highlights how JWST is allowing astronomers to study galaxy dynamics at an unprecedented level of detail. Future research will combine these findings with observations of coal gas and dust to create a more complete understanding of how the universe's first galaxies came together. This is just beginning, said Tacella. With more data, we'll be able to track how these turbulent systems grew up and became the graceful spirals we see today. Hey, back to Nat. This is WB5OZL.
Thank you, Brenda. Do we have any questions, comments, or additional check-ins? This is Skynet, N5DB, at control. Okay, now it's time for the discussion topic for the evening. UFOs are just one explanation for mysterious patterns in old telescope data. New peer-reviewed research reporting strange lights in the pre-space age sky is sparking curiosity and controversy. And this is by Jonathan O'Callaghan, edited by Lee Billings, in Scientific American Online. For generations, UFO enthusiasts have longed for claims of aliens visiting Earth to be seriously investigated by scientists. Now they're getting their wish. This month, prominent peer-reviewed journals have published 2 papers that link apparent flashes of light seen by a telescope 70 years ago to potential artificial objects in space. But there are many simpler explanations, providing an opportunity for UFO enthusiasts to see how extraordinary claims are tested and often undone by ordinary science. I think there are many in the UFO community who really want to know what's going on, says Adam Frank, an astrophysicist at the University of Rochester, who has written frequently about the prospects of alien life. I think it is worthwhile for us to have these open, transparent investigations. This is a great way to show people how science works. Beatrice Villarroel, I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly, Beatrice Villarroel, an astronomer and theoretical physicist at the Nordic Institute for Theoretical Physics in Sweden, is the driving force behind both papers. The first was published in the Nature journal Science Reports on October the 20th, after a 6-month peer review process. And the second was published in the Publications of the Astronomical Society of the Pacific on October 17th, after a shorter review process. Both concern data gathered at the Palomar Observatory in California from 1949 to 1958 for a project called the Palomar Sky Survey, which is one of the first detailed astronomical surveys of the sky. About 2,000 photographic plates were used to survey. Each glass sheet coated in emulsion or layer of chemicals that reflected incoming light, mostly from stars across the sky. This was the main method of recording astronomical images before the advent of cameras. Each photographic plate was the size of a vinyl record cover and was physically lifted into and removed from the telescope that conducted the survey. The 1.2-meter Palomar-Schmidt telescope, later renamed the Samuel Oschin telescope. The plates were digitized in the 1990s and 2000s. This is N5BB, and this is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, Skynet. Villarreal and her team used the digitized scans to study the night sky as it was before the 1957 launch of the first artificial satellite, the Soviet Union's Sputnik 1, to eliminate the possibility of seeing space-based interference from human activity. They used image processing software to look for transients, short-lived celestial events, such as stars flaring in brightness or fading from view, that are often associated with extreme astrophysics. Under the auspices of Villarreal's vanishing and appearing sources during a century of observations, that's acronym VASCO, Vanishing and Appearing Sources During a Century of Observations, VASCO project. They identified more than 107,000 transients. In principle, besides fluctuating star transients can be associated with other things too, such as extreme space weather events impinging on the upper atmosphere, sunlight glinting off reflective objects near the Earth, as well as flaws in the telescope or the imaging process. Among the events that the researchers identified, they noted several examples where multiple transients appeared aligned in a straight line across a single photographic plate, a configuration that Virial argues is unlikely to occur by any known natural phenomena. Other experts, such as Princeton University astrophysicist Robert Lupton, said that finding several such patterns in thousands of star-spangled plates could easily be mere coincidence. In the Scientific Reports paper, Virial and Samuel Bruel, a Vanderbilt University Medical Center anesthesiologist with an interest in UFOs, found that many of the transients occurred on or near dates of nuclear testing, with multiple nuclear test sites known to be near the Palomar Observatory at the time. They wrote that transients appeared to be 45% more likely on dates within 24 hours of a nuclear test. On days when there was no nuclear test, you saw transients on 11% of those days, says Bruel, the paper's lead author. On the day after a nuclear test, you saw transients on almost 19% of those days. So it changed from 11% to 19%. From the 2,718 days of observations made by the Palomar Sky Survey, Virial's team identified transients occurring on 310 days, with the most being 4,528 transients in one particular day. This is N5BB, and this is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, Skynet. In their paper, Bruel and Virial linked these transients to global reports of UFO sightings and found a small association with transients being identified on the same day as a UFO or UAP, that's an unidentified anomalous phenomenon, sighting. They claimed an 8.5% increase in the number of transients identified on days with UAP reports, and suggested this might mean the two were linked, referencing a well-known strand of UAP lore suggesting that nuclear weapons may attract UAPs to observe the events. A candidate transient is highlighted in a figure which, if you're looking at Skynet online, you should be able to see two adjacent plates with little blue circles where the transients were identified. These were derived from digital scans of photographic plates from the Palomar Sky Survey. These images show what the authors say could be flashes of light from artificial objects in outer space, years before humans sent spacecraft into Earth orbit. But the link to nuclear weapons can be simpler, says Michael Weissner, a nuclear astrophysicist at the University of Notre Dame, Indiana. Nuclear tests obviously have an impact on the atmosphere, he says. For example, the first telecommunications satellite, NASA's Telstar-1, was knocked out by an electromagnetic pulse from the American high-altitude nuclear test Starfish Prime in November 1962. Nuclear tests can also leave a lot of junk in the outer atmosphere, Weissner says, such as bits of metal and radioactive dust. that could appear briefly as star-like bursts of radiance to a telescope. This is N5BD, this is Skynet in progress. In their publications of the Astronomical Society of the Pacific paper, Villarreal and her team suggested that the number of transients dropped by about 30% in regions of the overhead sky that would have fallen within Earth's umbral shadow directly in line with the sun. This pattern could be explained if the transients were caused by sunlight reflecting objects that were orbiting Earth, they wrote. It looks like we're dealing with something that looks pretty artificial in a time when there shouldn't be anything there, Villarreal says. Each photographic plate took a 50-minute exposure of the sky, leading Villarreal to suggest that these putative objects were stationary in space, possibly in geostationary orbit, some 22,000 miles, that's 35,000 kilometers above the Earth. Bright objects in lower orbits, or other less sensational possibilities, such as meteors, would have left a streak instead of a star-like dot of light, she says. Frank says the two papers are a chance for scientists to have something tangible to scrutinize regarding UFOs. Often, he says, evidence has been little more than fuzzy blob photos or hearsay. What's interesting about these two papers is they played by the rules by which science can evaluate evidence, he adds, referencing Carl Sagan's famous adage that extraordinary claims requires extraordinary evidence. Whether there is extraordinary evidence here is up for some debate. The papers were not accepted by arxiv.org, an online preprint server where non-paywalled scientific papers are often uploaded, with the website noting to Villarreal that the scientific reports paper in particular does not contain sufficient or substantive scholarly research. There are also a host of simpler explorations of Villarreal's transients, which have drawn previous scrutiny from skeptical astronomers that don't require the extraordinary claim of UFOs. Sean Kirkpatrick, who is head of the Pentagon's U.S. Investigating All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, that's AARO, don't you love acronyms? From July 2022 to December 2023, says he thinks the link to nuclear testing and the Earth's shadow is key. Taken together, that tells me that these transients have both a solar and nuclear overlap, he says. The first thing that comes to mind is solar flare radiation or ionized particle radiation from nuclear testing. Split-second burst of light in the upper atmosphere that would manifest as a point source rather than a streak. Another possible explanation is high-altitude balloons, which were used to do nuclear monitoring. You're going to have a lot of those around nuclear testing. And so if people see them, a lot of people are going to report them, he says. This is N5BB. This is Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet progress. Kirkpatrick says Villarreal and her team could use today's geostationary satellites to see if they could reproduce the transient seen by Palomar, building a replica photographic plate and determining if it produces similar transients from known orbiting objects. What they have not done is prove this technique works on today's geostationary objects, he says. If it does, that could open the avenue to other non-UAP explanations to explore, such as pieces of starlight catching ice or rock lingering in trapped orbits far above the Earth. There are things that get captured up there and just kind of float around, Patrick says. There are astronomical explanations, too, Lupton says, because things go by and vary all over the place. He points to the example of gamma ray burst, extremely bright cosmic explosions that were discovered serendipitously by nuclear monitoring satellites in the 1960s. We were trying to see if the Russians were secretly blowing up nuclear weapons, and it turned out to be the stars destroying themselves on the other side of the universe, he says. The Vera C. Rubin telescope in Chile is expected to find millions of transients from supernova exploding stars alone, among many other types of transients, when it begins a 10-year survey of the sky later this year. The most prosaic explanation is that Virial's transients are simply artifacts in the photographic plates, such as speckles of dust, blobs in the emulsion, or even radioactive particles. Michael Hamley, an astronomer at the University of Edinburgh, who has previously analyzed Virial's work and who has extensive experience with photographic plates from Palomar and other observatories, says one way to check would be to study the original plates themselves rather than using digital copies. I've been caught out many times by apparently real things turning up in my data, he says, especially when working with plates that weren't stored in pristine conditions. When you actually physically examine the plates under a microscope, you begin to get a feeling for what's real and what's spurious, he says. There's no shame in being wrong. Elliot Gilliam, director of Optical SETI, is the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence at the SETI Institute in California, says that whatever the transients really are, it will be interesting to apply the scientific process to them. It's wonderful to take a set of phenomena we don't understand and study them, he says. He adds that Vera Real and her team could test their same methodology on other photographic plate archives to see if the transients show up elsewhere. There are plenty of other sets of digitized plates, Gilliam says. It's quite possible that there are multiple causes here. It'd be great to figure them out. He says that another possibility could be meteors that flew straight down into the telescope's view rather than across it. That would make the objects appear as dots instead of streaks. Villarreal says she welcomes alternative ideas for what these transients might be. Even if this turns out to be some new physical phenomena that's super exciting, she says, that would mean we have discovered something new that nobody knew existed. If that does turn out to be the case, there's plenty of other searches for extraterrestrials, such as NASA's upcoming Habitable Worlds Observatory, that can whet the appetite of those longing for signs of life elsewhere in the cosmos. It's one of the most important scientific questions we have, Frank says. The great thing is we now finally have the capacity to start answering this. That's the end of that long article. And this is N5BB, and this is the Skynet. Somebody asked a question in the Echolink text, but that station seems to be gone. KI5KTZ asked if there will be a fox hunt tomorrow at White Rock Lake. NT510, Tony, are you still there? Do you know if there'll be a fox hunt tomorrow? This is N5BB, Skynet in progress. Does any other station know about any other fox hunts tomorrow? If so, please come down. Well, I think we have no information. Tony didn't mention one earlier that I remember. And, I guess not. Okay. Do we have any other check-ins? I don't see anybody on Echolink or on the web form. Would anybody else like to check into Skynet? If so, please come now. This is N5BB, net control. Okay, next we have What's Up? Chaz, KF5JHA, this is N5BB. What's up, Chaz?
Thank you, Bill. This is KF5JHA, Chaz. We call this segment of Skynet What Is Up because it's all about what has gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. That was slide number 2. Did you know there's a video version of Skynet? If you go to W5FC.org, you can click on the YouTube link that goes to the video version of Skynet. There you can see videos. The images that I'm going to talk about are there. Yeah. Slide Master, slide number 3. Here's an image of Comet Lemon taken by Peter Van Horn at Greenville, Texas, with his C-Star S50. You can see the path of an airplane going through the tail of the comet. Of course, the comet's much further away than the airplane. And below the comet is a faint path of a satellite. Again, the satellite's closer to us than the comet. Slide Master, slide number 4. Comet Swan is another comet in the evening sky. On October 17th, it passed close by M16, the Eagle Nebula. Comet Swan is the fuzzy thing in the lower right. M16 is the reddish object in the upper left. Slide Master, slide number 5. On Wednesday, October the 22nd, I took a series of images of Comet Swan. On the left is the first picture taken at 7:37 p.m. The middle image was taken at 7:56 p.m. and the right image was taken at 8:10 p.m. You can see the movement of the comet going past a star. That star was only 4th or 5th magnitude, which is kind of faint. Slide Master, slide number 6. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Coronavirus for more than a year. It is currently at a brightness of around 10th magnitude. I just checked, it was 9.8 the last time I checked a few minutes ago, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. T Coronavirus was supposed to go nova more than a year ago. There's new predictions of November the 10th, that's just in a few days, or June the 25th of next year. But when it does go nova, T Coronavirus could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. Now, I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light palooza location here in Mesquite, Texas. Slide Master, slide number 7. This image of the sun is from November the 1st, that's today, from spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes of the sun are so large, at times, you can just use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. Now, the sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. It may have just passed it, but we're not sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. I've talked about the solar cycle about 6 months ago here on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 8. The first quarter moon was on October the 29th, just a few days ago. So the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. Full moon is on November the 5th. Also on November the 5th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 356,833 kilometers. Third quarter moon is on November the 11th. On November the 19th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,691 kilometers. A new moon is on November the 20th. Slide Master, slide number 9, please. Okay, we're going to go through a series of things that you can see in the sky really quickly. So slide 9, November the 1st, that's tonight. The moon and Saturn are in conjunction in the sky. You can go take a look at it. Yeah, that brighter object next to the moon, that's Saturn. If you've got a telescope, take a look at it. You'll see the rings nearly edge on. The rings were edge on just a little while ago. It's a few weeks ago. Slide master, slide number 10. November the 2nd, that's tomorrow, Spike and Venus are in conjunction in the western morning sky. November the 6th, that's slide number 11, Moon and Pleiades are in conjunction in the eastern morning sky. Slide master, slide number 12. November the 10th, the Moon and Jupiter are in conjunction in the early morning sky. Yep, Jupiter is that bright thing, it's almost straight overhead. And let's see now, on November the 11th, that's Veterans Day, slide master, slide number 13. Just after midnight, look for the moon and M44, the Beehive star clusters. They're in conjunction in the sky. With your binoculars, you should be able to spot the Beehive star clusters and the moon close together. Slide master, slide number 14, also on November the 11th, but in the evening sky, Mars and Mercury in conjunction in the southwestern evening sky. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 15. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill or any of the information, or maybe you just have a general astronomy question? Come down with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. So as the moon wanes next week, so does these words to the segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. That's the only one where humans live right now. Until next time, well, actually, I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet, transmitting on W5FC repeater at 146.88 megahertz. Back to our net control, N5BB. Bill, it's yours.
Thank you, Chaz. Do we have any additional check-ins to Skynet? This is November 5, Bravo, Bravo, net control. Nothing heard. Gus, W5GUS. This is N5DD. How about space exploration and space history?
Okay, thank you, Bill. W5GUS here. Well, space exploration news is pretty exciting this week. We have a birthday celebration also for the ISS. We'll get to that in a moment. But right now, the successfully launched a new crew of 3 taikonauts, including the nation's youngest ever astronaut, to their Tiangong space station October 30th, a couple days ago. The crew is scheduled for a 6-month stay. And the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, launched its new HTV-X1 cargo spacecraft on an H-3 rocket 4 days before that, on October 26th. The craft successfully arrived and was installed on the International Space Station on October 31st, 2025, yesterday. And speaking of the International Space Station, it's marking 25 years of continuous human presence in orbit this weekend, with the anniversary of the first crew's arrival, which was November 2nd, year 2000. And here are some of the successes over the last 25 years it's been there. The ISS has successfully maintained a continuous human presence in low Earth orbit since November 2nd, 2000. This 25-year duration has provided invaluable data on the physiological and psychological effects of long-duration spaceflight, which is essential for planning future missions to the Moon and Mars. It is a remarkable feat of international diplomacy, bringing together 5 space agencies from 15 countries. This ongoing collaboration enduring despite geopolitical tensions on Earth demonstrates a powerful model for peaceful global partnership in pursuit of scientific and technological goals. The ISS has hosted thousands of scientific experiments across various disciplines, including biology, physics, medicine, natural science. It allows scientists to study phenomena in a near-zero gravity environment, leading to breakthroughs with applications on Earth, such as the development of advanced medicines and better materials science processes. And by requiring services for cargo and crew transport, the ISS program fostered the development of competitive commercial space sector. This has enabled the rise of companies like SpaceX and Northrop Grumman, and revolutionizing access to space and paving the way for future commercial space stations. Technologies developed for the demanding environment of the ISS have produced numerous spin-off benefits that are used in our daily life here on Earth. Examples include advanced water purification systems for clean drinking water in disaster areas, sophisticated medical ultrasound technology for remote diagnoses, and air filtration systems that remove contaminants from hospitals and homes. Okay, plus it's just cool. All right, we'll move on to space-related birthdays. October 29th, Valery Tokarev was the first Russian cosmonaut on a U.S. space shuttle mission, which was STS-96, and performed 2 spacewalks during Expedition 12. He was also on 96, TMA 7, and Expedition 12. Okay, October 30th, Robert Hoot Gibson. He flew on 5 space flights, commanding 4 different shuttles, commanding STS-71, the first mission to dock with the Russian space station Mir. He was on STS-41, 61, STS-27, STS-47, and STS-71. October 30th, Ronald Gowron. He logged over 178 days in space and performed 4 spacewalks, known for sharing the orbital perspective after returning to Earth. He was on space STS-124, Soyuz TMA-21, and ISS Expedition 2728. Also on October 30th, Sandra Magnus, an engineer who spent over 157 days in space across 3 missions, including a long-duration stay on the ISS as flight engineer for Expedition 18. She was also on STS-112, STS-126, Expedition 18, and STS-135. Okay, October 31st, Michael Collins, a name we've all heard, on Gemini 10 and Apollo 11. He was a command module pilot for 11, the first moon landing mission. He orbited the moon while Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were down on the surface. Also on October 31st, Halloween birthday, Terry Wilcutt. He flew 4 shuttle missions, 2 as pilot and 2 as commander, STS-79 and STS-89 were shuttle Mir docking missions. He was also on STS-106 and STS-79 and 68. Enjoying a birthday today is Nancy Jan Davis, STS-47, STS-60, STS-85. She was an aerospace engineer who was part of the first married couple to fly in space together, along with Mark Lee on STS-47. She was also the payload commander on STS-85. Okay, now we'll go into the week in space history. Got some interesting things here. The Soviet Union released the first ever images on October 26, 1959. Soviet Union released the first ever images of the moon's far side, captured by the Luna 3 probe. Because of tidal locking, this hemisphere, that hemisphere of the moon, is never visible from Earth. The images, although grainy, were a revelation, showing a rugged, heavily cratered surface with far fewer of the dark plains seen on the near side. This provided the first evidence of the significant difference between the two lunar hemispheres. The release of the photos was a major scientific propaganda victory for the USSR during the Cold War space race. October 27, 1961, the U.S. successfully conducted the maiden flight of the Saturn I rocket during the Apollo program early days. This test, designated as SA-1, was a crucial step in developing the heavy lift launch capabilities needed for crewed missions to the moon. The Saturn I provided valuable data and experience for the later, much larger and more powerful Saturn V rockets. This successful flight demonstrated the U.S. was making progress in closing the space gap with the Soviet Union. And here's an interesting one also. October 30, 1967, the Soviet Union achieved a major technological feat, or first, with the automated uncrewed docking of two Soyuz spacecraft, Cosmos 186 and Cosmos 188. This mission demonstrated the vital ability for spacecraft to link up autonomously in orbit without a human pilot. This was a long time ago. This capability was essential for future space operations, including the construction of modular space stations like Mir and the International Space Station. The docking technology showcased the USSR advanced automation systems in space. Okay, November 1st, today's date, 1923, American physicist and engineer Robert Goddard successfully tested a liquid-fueled rocket motor on a test stand. While not a flight, this experiment was a pivotal moment in rocketry, proving the feasibility of liquid propulsion that is used on almost all modern rockets. Goddard's work laid the fundamental principles for practical spaceflight. His pioneering efforts, though often initially met with skepticism, earned him recognition as a founding father of modern rocketry and the space age. All right, and have one more thing here. November 1st, 1932, today, but back in 1932, Werner von Braun, a brilliant young engineer, was appointed to lead the German Army's liquid fuel rocket development program. This was in November 1932. This marked the beginning of his influential career in large-scale rocketry. which began with the V-2 rocket program during World War II. After the war, he was brought to the U.S., where he became the chief architect of the Saturn V launch vehicle. His leadership and expertise were fundamental to achieving the U.S. goal of landing astronauts on the moon during the Apollo program. All right, and with that, we'll hand it back to Net Control and look forward to Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week. So back to you, Bill, W5GUS.
Thank you, Gus. Now it's time for Chaz again. KF5JHA, this is N5BB. Time for Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week. Take it away, Chaz.
Thank you, Bill. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, so Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Ms. Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is Pegasus, the winged horse. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Let me refresh you with the myths surrounding Pegasus. Cepheus and Cassiopeia were king and queen. Cepheus' wife, Cassiopeia, was a very vain woman. In some versions of the story, Cassiopeia bragged that her daughter Andromeda was more beautiful than the sea nymphs, and some versions say that she said so about herself. So Poseidon sent the sea monster, Cetus, to ravage the coast. Cepheus, the king, turned to an oracle to find the advice on how to prevent the utter disaster of what was going on with the sea monster. And the oracle told him that the only way to appease Poseidon was to sacrifice their daughter Andromeda to the sea monster. Desperate, Cepheus and Cassiopeia did this, leaving their daughter chained to a rock for Cetus, the sea monster, to find. Luckily, the hero, Perseus, came flying in on a winged horse. You know that one, that's a Pegasus. And he found the princess, rescued her, and killed the sea monster. Later on, he married Andromeda, and of course, they lived happily ever after. Now, all 6 of the main characters in this story are constellations in the sky. We talked about one of them last week. Slide Master, slide number 18. One of the most important things in Skynet are the jokes of the week. All right, did you hear about the pony that was sick? He was a little horse. What do you call a horse that likes to stay up late? A nightmare. Why do cowboys like to ride horses? Because they're too heavy to carry around. What kind of food do racehorses like to eat? Of course, it's fast food. What do you call a horse that lives next door to you? He's a neighbor. And the last one, what does Mr. Ed, the horse, when does Mr. Ed, the horse, talk? Only when he feels like, And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 19. M15 is a globular cluster located just 4 degrees from Enif, that's the nose of Pegasus. M15 is believed to be about 30,000 light years in distance. It shines at a magnitude of 6.3. We can see it from telescopes right from the very light polluted area of Brookhaven. You can see it if you have a very dark location and great eyesight with just your unaided eye. From the smallest binoculars to the largest telescopes, they're easy to see. Walter Scott Houston of Deep Sky Wonders fame wrote that the way to improve the chances of seeing it without optical aid is to look through a long cardboard tube painted black on the inside. This will up and down cut off the unanticipated flood of light brightness and improve your magnitude limit. Of course, M15 is an easy binocular object and looks like a fuzzy star. Slide Master, slide number 20. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog, object number 2, number 1 and number 2. Dave Hutchinson, in his past Spectrum article, writes, many amateur astronomers know that M1 is the Crab Nebula in Taurus, but fewer know about NGC-1 is located in Pegasus, also in NGC-2. Of course, the two galaxies, NGC-1 is the brighter of the magnitude at 12.9. NGC-2 is much dimmer at 14.2. The two galaxies appear to be close together in the sky and observed in the same field of view in many telescopes. Both of them are spiral galaxies. Slide master, slide number 21. NGC 7331. It's a magnitude 9.5. It's a nice spiral galaxy that's shown a beautiful object in photographs. It's viewed obliquely, tilted at 22 degrees from edge on. Burnham's Celestial Handbook states that NGC 7331 is a galaxy whose photograph is often used in astronomy textbooks to illustrate the possible appearance of our own Milky Way system as seen from intergalactic space. In fact, nowadays we think that the Milky Way is a barred spiral galaxy and not just a regular spiral galaxy. Slide master, slide number 22. Stephan's Quintet, NGC 7317, NGC 7318A, 7318B, 7319, 7320. Stephan's Quintet is a faint group of galaxies that is difficult in small telescopes to see. Dave Hutchinson notes that they were easy to see in a 24-inch Lone Star Observatory telescope. Stephen James Amir notes that the radio observations show that there are many interactions between 7331 and at least one of the members of Stephan's Quintet. Amir also notes that Stephan's Quintet is famous for another heavenly reason. It's used in the opening of the sequence well known in the 1946 film, It's a Wonderful Life. And this is KF5JJ and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 23. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Pegasus, the winged horse. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. So if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen from the Astronomical League in about a year. Slide master, slide number 24. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Pegasus, the Winged Horse. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next week, we'll take a look at two constellations, Sculptor, the Sculptor's Workshop, and Phoenix, a very special bird. And this is KF5JJ Chaz saying goodnight. 73, back to our net control. Bill, it's yours, N5BB.
Thanks, Chaz. Tom, K5ICX. We've only got 2 minutes. Do you want to talk about any space launches or visible satellite passages?
Oh, probably not tonight, Bill, but I will mention this. You can get information on space launches for the week from spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. And it'll list time and dates of those launches as well as launch windows. If indeed there's a variation in time for the launch. Then in the second segment, if you are looking for satellite passes, you can go to heavensabove.com. That website, plug in your longitude and latitude or your city location, and it will give you all of the information there. Take a look this week for the International Space Station. There's a number of really good passes. It's the Cloudslow Outlet. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
W5FC.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have any additional check-ins before I close the net? This is N5BB. This is Skynet.
Tango for check-in.
Okay, you have to give your call sign. This is N5BB. Was there a station trying to check in? You need to give your call sign, your name, and your location.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
there station trying to check in? We never got a call sign.
November Romeo 6 Tango Tango. This is Nicholas in Davis for checking.
And R6TT. Welcome, Nicholas. One last try. Any other check-ins before I close the net? This is N5BD, and this is Skynet.
Kilo Romeo 4, Uniform Sierra Echo, Robert.
A weak station, Kilo Romeo 4. Please give the last letters of your call phonetically.
Kilo Romeo 4, Uniform Sierra Echo.
I recognize KR4USD. Do we have any other check-ins?
Kilo India 5, Romeo Victor Alpha, Markenhurst, no traffic.
Yeah, this is not a traffic net, Mark. KI5RVA, I recognize you. Do we have any other check-ins for the net? This is Skynet. This is not a traffic net. Any other check-ins?
Kilo 1 Golf Bravo Delta, Guy in Forney, no traffic.
K1GBD. Hello, Guy, and unfortunately, goodbye, Guy. Do we have any other check-ins? Finally, tonight we had 24 hams participating on the air. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and the other Dallas Image Radio Club nets. If you'd like to help, send email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy, etc. on Facebook and X. Go to w5fc.org and you'll find all this information. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BD. I'm closing a net at 10:32 p.m. local time. We're turning a repeater to normal amateur radio use. 7 to 3s, everybody. Enjoy the evening discovering the universe. Don't forget to set your clocks back 1 hour tomorrow if they're not automatic. This is N5BD, closing Skynet. K5ICX, what's going on with Afterglow?
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Thanks for doing the net. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Come on back. We'll be talking about the 1990 movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Total Recall. 5 minutes. Come on back. KE5ICX. Right, well, it is now 5 minutes later. It's 10:38, time for the Afterglow Movie Net. Let me see. Tonight's film is from 1990. It's called Total Recall. Let me give you a little bit of the wiki info about it. Says Total Recall was starred Arnold Schwarzenegger in his science fiction action movie directed by Paul C. Even, and is loosely based on a short story by Philip K. Dick. The plot centers on Dennis Quaid, Douglas, not Dennis Quaid, Douglas Quaid, different Quaid, a construction worker who learns that he might be a secret agent on Mars involved in a conflict over an alien reactor capable of creating a breathable atmosphere. The film experienced a lengthy development process involving multiple directors and writers over 10 years before production began. With an estimated budget of $50 to $65 million, is considered one of the most expensive films produced at the time. Principal photography occurred in Mexico City, utilizing its brutalist architecture to represent Martian and future Earth settings. The movie notably employed extensive practical effects and miniatures alongside early CGI, like the X-ray scene and the fat lady disguised as motion. Total Recall achieved critical and commercial success, earning an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. Total Recall was one of the most expensive films of its time, I mentioned that, featuring extensive filming locations in Mexico City and Estudios Cambrusco Studios, utilizing 45 sets built across 8 sound stages. The director integrated miniatures. Practical effects were by Rob Botton and provide prosthetic makeup alongside early computer-generated imagery for the X-ray scanner scene. These technical achievements earned the film a Special Achievement Academy Award for Visual Effects. And of course, you can get more information over at Wikipedia by typing in Wikipedia and Total Recall in 1990, and you'll get that film. There was a reboot, I believe, or redo of the movie in 2017, I think it was. I'm going by memory here. And there was even a short-lived one-season television series called Total Recall. I think it involved the usual thing that they always do with science fiction TV series like that. I think it was a cop thing, but I don't remember much about it. I didn't even know it was in syndication for a while. No Arnold Schwarzenegger in that one. All right, with that, well, I hope we get a fairly good crowd tonight. I'm not so sure. We've been really kind of lean the last couple of weeks. I know we compete with college football on Saturday night, so that may have something to do with it. But it's getting darker earlier. Maybe people come in a little earlier. They might wander by the radio, turn it on, and hear us. So we'll give it a shot. I'll take check-ins now. Please come with your call sign, your name, did you see the film? If you did not, or not recently, that's okay. Just let me know that, and we'll ask you questions or tell you more about the film, two questions you might ask. So let's go ahead and get started. Your call sign, name, did you see the film? Total Recall from 1990.
Someone has to go first. November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony and Dallas. Yes, I saw the film.
This is WB5OZL. Name is Brenda, and I saw the film 35 years ago and not since. But I did like it. But I'll be here. I may not have anything useful to say, but I definitely want to hear the comments.
This is November Romeo 6, Tango Tango, Nicholas in Davis, Northern California. Also have seen the movie. It is a classic, and eager to listen to the comments.
let me go ahead and get those three. I've got NG5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yep, he saw the film. I got WD5OZL, Brenda. Yes, she saw the film a while back. And I've got NR6TT, Nicholas, somewhere in California. Welcome, Nicholas. He also saw the film. Anyone else want to check in? Please come down. Okay, well, it's going to be another lean one, folks. If we don't do these, get more check-ins, and they have to rethink all this. It's late at night. Well, at any rate, let's see what we can do. Tony, NT5TM, go ahead with your comments. What did you think? Well, let's do this. We'll talk about the plot. What did you think about the plot? Good, bad, indifferent, too action-oriented, not story enough, too much story, too many pixels? You tell me. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Well, I have seen this movie several times. It has a lot of imperfections. Oh boy, a lot, which I'll talk about in the third round. Death by hypoxia is actually very boring and unremarkable. But as far as the plot, it is, hi Ferdinand, really pretty exciting. It's also remarkably like early video games. Now, I'm not much of a gamer. I have played like Doom and Half-Life and Half-Life 2 and Bioshock, and it's kind of remarkable how much this movie feels like an early video game. Not like Legend of Zelda or Super Mario Brothers, but an early PC-era video game with some cutscenes that explain what you have to do in the next sequence, and then the action starts. Lots of kicking and shooting and things exploding and people running around. It really has this very steady alternation between violence and narrative. Here's what you have to accomplish in the next scene, Mr. Hauser or Mr. Quaid. And then bam, 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 bam. So, it keeps me watching every time. I'll talk about the scientific goofiness later, but it does keep me watching. I do fear, though, that they took a few pains to undercut Mr. Dick's work. I know we have this story in the house, but I can't remember the last time I read it. But I can remember quite a number of other Philip K. Dick stories, and one of his hallmarks is you really can't tell. He loves to just blur, is this your nightmare or is this Thursday morning? They took pains in this movie to point that out. We haven't implanted that ego trip yet. They keep making little efforts to remind us that this is real, and I think that Philip K. Dick would have said, you don't know, because that's the whole point, is we don't know. But it sure is a fun story, and hey, that's movie magic. We don't know. NT5TM.
All right, good synopsis. Thank you, Tony. Let's move on to Brenda, WD5OZL, Brenda. Yes, it's been 30 years ago. Do you remember anything about the film? If not, just tell us what you were doing that day 30 years ago. That's good.
Oh, this is WB5OZL. I remember liking it a lot. I think we probably owned a copy of it and watched it several times. I always liked it. It's disturbing. It's violent, and it's weird. And they created a strange future. But it was really interesting. It was, nonstop action, and, it was unusual, which is good. So many science fiction movies are so cookie cutter. Like the music, Jerry Goldsmith. And I guess I shouldn't have said that yet. We're still on plot. Well, anyway, since I didn't see it, I probably am not the best person to talk too much about the plot. But other than, I just remember it being a pretty good movie. Back to net, WB50ZL.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Brenda. We'll be back in a little bit with you. NR6TT, Nicholas, welcome to the net. By the way, we're here every Saturday night. We're Central Time, so we're a couple hours ahead of you. But it's at 10:30 Central Time here in Dallas. I'm actually in Corpus Christi. I'm on the coast. I'm connected to the interwebs, but everybody else is in Dallas. So, what did you think about, well, I should really go over how we do this. We talk about the plot first round, second round. We talk about the characterization third round, everything else. Special effects, music, you name it. This net generally is science fiction films, but not always. We sometimes go off on a whim or a different angle, but it's generally always science fiction, and this week's film, of course, is Total Recall. So, Nicholas, you said you saw the film. Well, what did you think? What do you remember about it that you liked and disliked from KE5 ICX? And it's about plot.
Tango, Nicholas and David, Northern California, near Sacramento. I have seen Total Recall at least a handful of times over the last 20 or so years, but it's been long enough since my last watching that I'm not really sharp on the finer plot points. I will say that it's a classic Schwarzenegger movie. It has some fairly memorable scenes for assorted reasons, some of which are probably less safe to talk about over the radio. But I really love the contrast of the old tech and living out in space. I think that goes really well, and I very much remember the final scene where the atmosphere becomes breathable. But unfortunately, not much more intelligent to comment on the plot, but I'll hand it back to you. NR6 Tango.
All right, well, that's fine, Nicholas. I'm glad you hung around. You were on the previous net, and I appreciate that. By the way, if you want to jot this down, you can get an email with what next week's, well, I'll tell you what next week's movie will be in a little bit. But if you'd like to get that information and a hot link to the movie, always free, by the way, usually from a streaming service somewhere. Always from a streaming service somewhere, except for, I think, archive.org. You can download movies there. They're in public domain. But send me an email at KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray at yahoo.com, and I'll put you on the list. And you'll get the movie information, usually Sunday morning, the following day. But I'll also announce the movie at the end of the net, as I'm not sure what the next one will be right now. At any rate, that's it. Okay, anyone else want to check in before we continue? Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, Total Recall from 1990? Okay, well, I'll give my comments then. One of the things I found interesting about this movie was that, I'm trying to find the information here, is that it is surprisingly good for the fact that it had gone through so many rewrites, writers, directors. It was in development hell for almost a decade. And it went through a bankruptcy. Dino De Laurentiis originally had the rights to it, and Dune, his previous film, was a financial flop, although it became a big cult classic through the years. Everybody knows about it. And it sunk them financially, so it was sold off to whomever got it after that. What was also interesting about this is that Arnold Schwarzenegger actually took lead on this and an interest in the film. And even though they had gone through all the leading men that were more appropriate for the film, they decided to bring, he took an active interest in this and more or less executive produced the show. He left all the financial things to other people, but in the end, he's the one that kind of helped guide this film along and become a vehicle for him, and it worked out quite well, and it's considered one of his best films. With that being said, and the fact that the story has been rewritten so many times and did come from Philip K. Dick's story. By the way, Dan O'Bannon was also listed as one of the writers. He's popped up several times last month in the films that we were talking about, Dark Star, Alien, the new Alien series. Even though he's dead, he's recognized in that as well. So I thought I'd just mention that up front because I thought that was really interesting, that films like this generally don't do well at all. They die a horrible death because of so many people being involved. But this one, its story is engaging. There's a lot of action. It is a little violent, probably more so than it needed to be. But, you know, it was a summer big-budget film, if I remember correctly, and that helps to play into it. I like the idea, and I think the critics were very much in favor of this dream reality thing, and it was finally rewritten to include that, to emphasize the fact that we never really know whether it's a dream or reality. Now, I'm going to make a kind of a technical observation here that makes you wonder if you could use that narrative, whether it's a dream or reality. And this is simply because who is telling the story? And to my knowledge, I think it's supposed to be our main character, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he is the one that is actually telling the story. So, yes, could it be a dream sequence? Could it be real? But if he's telling the story, how come we're seeing things where he's supposedly unconscious? Our hero is unconscious. So I always have problems with that when it's a kind of a narrative like that, is that is our character able to see things when he's out cold? And if he is, wouldn't he realize that he's in a dream? I don't know. Or because in reality he wouldn't notice anything. He just these would be missing blanks. Just a little nit for me, wondering if the narrative actually makes sense, especially when this has been written and rewritten so many times that was the last thing they added back in. And so you'd have to revamp the entire script in order to do that. Not that it really matters in the end, and most people probably wouldn't even notice that or care. But that's something that I noticed because I'm kind of nerdish about that. But anyway, I thought that overall it moved along at a pretty good pace. I love the practice. I can't talk about special effects. I already talked about some of the other stuff. But at any rate, it looked pretty good. I liked one thing I think I did like about this that's very... No, I can't talk about that either because that's the effects. All right. What can I say? Lots of explosions. Lots and lots of explosions. You could see that. And the ending was pretty good, although kind of far-fetched. You get an instant atmosphere, I thought was a bit much. But I did like that, and that's the thing I remember most from the film. That and the score, of course. But I thought that was kind of cool that they were able to make it an Earth. And that was mentioned at the very beginning, you know, blue skies. Would you like blue skies on Mars? We can make that for you, wholesale. I thought overall it wasn't too bad. I did rather enjoy it. I thought it was quite fun to watch it again. It's not always at the top of my list, but I have watched it at times over the years. I think the last time I watched it was probably about five years ago. But it's well worth it. Much better than the 2017 remake, I will say that. Although the 2017 remake, I think it was 2017, had a few interesting concept parts to it. But this, I think, is a better crafted film. In spite of the multiple contributions, I think it worked out quite well. All right, I'll go ahead and take a second round, see if anybody else is out there, see if we can beef up the list a little bit. Anyone else out there like to join us this evening? We're talking about tonight's movie, Total Recall from 1990 with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean, Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this film.
All right, I teased another one out of the woodwork. Sean, glad to have you back. KB9SOK, what did you think about our fine film for tonight?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, sorry about missing last week. Had some technical difficulties. I got it figured out finally. So yeah, this one, I think, I agree with very closely with Tony's and yours evaluation as well, Tom. I think that pretty well explains. I do think it was actually a decent plot. I do think it's one of the better films for Arnold. This was kind of at that peak of action-style movies, that little bit of quirk that we've seen in the 80s. I didn't realize it took 10 years to make, and that kind of explains why it kind of felt like an 80s movie, because probably a bulk of it was written then. And I think it was a fun concept, was it real or not. And compared to a lot of the action movies we've seen today, which get very boring, to be quite honest, because they're all almost identical to each other. Somebody's out for revenge or somebody's daughter's been, kidnapped. It's just kind of the same thing went, over and over and over. And back in the 80s, we did have some variety of cheesy action movies. Yeah, some of them were cheesy. Yeah, and this one did too. It had the humor in it, but yet it still had the interesting story. Did we necessarily need, quite as much gore that was in it? No, but I still thought it was okay. That didn't bother me. This was, definitely one of the ones that I've seen a few times over the years. Even picked it up in the Bargain Barn Blu-ray basket at Walmart several years ago for a couple dollars, just to throw into the collection. So it gave me an excuse to brush the dust off the disc and play it. So yeah, just kind of just one of those almost popcorn-style movies. Just kind of sit back, watch the action, and but yet it still did have somewhat of an interesting story. It wasn't strictly just shoot 'em up, even though it was a lot of that there, a lot of action, but they typically were in that time frame. So don't really have a whole lot to add, but anyway, it was interesting. Back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. It's interesting you mentioned that it felt like a 1980s movie. And when I watched it, I was thinking, before I confirmed the date and put it out for the thing, I really did think it was about 1981, 82 when it came out, but it was actually 1990. Just barely into the 1990s, of course, but 1990s nevertheless. So you're right, it did have that feel to it. Which is curious. But at any rate, we'll talk about some of the effects and everything. That kind of made you think that way in just a little bit. All right. Well, we'll go back up to the top. We're going to talk about the characterization and acting in the film. We have a number of many character actors, very famous character actors back then. Plus, of course, some A-list talent as well. So let's start with Tony, NT5TM. What did you think about the acting and characterization for Total Recall?
Well, I have two comments about the characters. Well, maybe three or four. I mean, like Michael Ironsides is always good at kind of being the heavy with that's what he does. Sharon Stone genuinely tried. I don't have a high opinion of her as an actor, but I really felt that she tried here. She really tried to project the sense of, I'm pretending to be your wife, and I don't really like you very much. I really actually felt, like she did a good job, and I don't usually say that about her, so, hey, I want to make a note. And Arnold. I don't really think Arnold can act. I really don't. But I really think he gave it his best. He loved this material. He'd been trying to get this project done. I really think he tried very hard. Now, I thought I could see him trying, but I really think he tried. And a lot of people who become mega celebrities just kind of coast and it's like, hey, look, it's me, Tom Hanks. Oh, didn't want to mention his name. By the standards of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think he tried hard and took a risk here. So I felt proud of him. It wasn't great. It wasn't impressive by the standards of, I don't know, Laurence Olivier or something. But I really felt he tried, and I wanted to give him a merit badge here for trying to be a real actor. So, this movie was mostly about fun and adventure. But I felt Sharon and Arnold really tried, and I appreciated that. NT5TM.
All right. Thank you, Tony. You did. I think you were trying to be as nice as possible. You used the word tried about 8 or 10 times, as opposed to anything above that. It was an attempt, yes, tried. But, I understand, and you're trying to be nice. Plus, you don't want him coming over and beating you to a pulp. Okay, next up is Brenda. Now, Brenda's going on a 30-year-old memory on this, but, you can get it wholesale. So, WB50ZL. Brenda, what do you remember about the film and the characters? Well, let's make it simple. Did you think that Arnold tried or was trying? And how did Sharon Stone stack up as Quaid's wife in this, or Arnold's wife? Or whatever you want to say. Or if you just don't know, just say, I don't know. Why are you asking me these questions? That might be the best answer. From KE5-5CX.
This is WB50ZL. Did you just do my thing for me? Well, I have always loved Arnold's movies. He gets a bad rap as an actor because of his delivery, the accent and the monotone, and people say he's not a good actor, but I don't have a real problem with it. It's effective. I think he gets the job done. He plays a big tough guy, and he's just fun to look at, whether he's a good actor or not. He's fun to watch. And everything from Kindergarten Cop to The Terminator. Sharon Stone was sort of unforgettable, I think. To me, she was just a pretty face, and I don't think I've seen her in anything where I would say, yeah, that's great acting. One character who was just kind of blipped through, but one of my favorite actors is Robert Picardo, who played Johnny Cab, the cab driver, and of course, he is a fabulous actor, and a real interesting guy besides. I've met him a couple of times. I'll never forget the image of the lady with 3 bosoms. That was just disturbing, and I still can't get that picture out of my head. A lot of Ronnie Cox he's always good. I don't have a real problem with the acting in general. So That's all I got to say. W5OZL.
All right. Well, thank you, Brenda. Well, that's not too bad. I was worried that you wouldn't remember much about the actors, especially going so far back, but you did pretty well with that. Okay, next up is Nicholas, NR6TT. Nicholas, same question to you. See if you can scratch your head and remember who the characters were, since it's probably been a while since you've seen the film, but if you got something or a particular thing you want to mention about any of the actors or characters in the film, it's your turn. Go ahead, from KE5, ICX.
I have to echo Tony and Brenda's sentiments in as much as the acting in this movie was not something that stood out to me or that I remembered particularly. I think that was certainly on the action and the intriguing things, three bosoms, things of that nature. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger, I agree with Tony's assessment. He does try hard. I think he tries hard in everything he does. But he played himself very well in this movie. I actually forgot that Sharon Stone was in this movie, so that might be more in line with what Brenda thought. And I have, for some reason, a flash of memory about Marshall Bell, who plays the Quato character. It might just be because he had that other life form growing out of his chest that I'm remembering him rather than for the acting. That's the depth of thoughts I have. So November, Romeo 6, Tango, Tango, back to the net.
All right, thank you, Nicholas. Yeah, you hit on a couple that I want to talk about too. So, well, I'll come back to those characters in a few minutes. Next up, Sean, KB9SOK. Same question to you. Characterization.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with what everybody said. You know, everybody knows Arnold's not the strongest actor, but yeah, I do agree. I think he did try in this one, and but it's just typical Arnold, so it didn't really actually bother me. That's just kind of the character he plays, and you know, I can't imagine. It sounded like initially in this movie they tried to maybe find somebody else that he took interest. And I just don't know that it had been quite the same movie. I just kind of that just kind of lended to him, and maybe because he had, you know, an interest and had some input into how it went. So that makes some sense. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of Sharon Stone either. Even in her most famous movie, I don't think she's that good of an actress. But she did okay in this, I thought. For her, you know, But yeah, the supporting actors were probably the strongest. You know, our bad guys played bad guys well. You know, Taxi Driver was good. All the other supporting, pretty much all. You know, even I can't think of her name off the top of my head. I really should look this stuff up. Arnold's real girlfriend, and she's been in a lot of stuff in that era. And you know, she did a decent job. So yeah, the supporting actors were actually the stronger ones in it. But once again, I actually didn't really mind Arnold's performance in this. It's just classic Arnold, and it would be weird to see him act any other way. So anyway, not a whole lot to add here on that. So back to net. KB9SOK.
Okie dokie. All good summation of characters. Let me see. Before I speak, I'll go ahead and ask anyone else hanging out there that wants to talk about the film now that they know what it is. Please come with your call now if you'd like to join us. Okay, well, it's just going to be one of those quiet nights. Let me go down the list. Arnold, as Douglas Quaid, I think it was pretty obvious that he enjoyed doing this role. Plus, he had a lot of influence into how that role was going to be performed, as Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course. I think he did fine. I don't think there was anything wrong with it. I could tell that I really did feel he really enjoyed this role, and I think it gave us some form of better authenticity, because we know his acting is a bit wooden. But being the everyman, even though he had superhuman powers of sorts to do everything, that was programmed in, right? So it made it possible, if that's what it was, a dream or reality. Whatever it was, he could do superhuman things. And he could wield a machine gun, which is the universal standard, apparently, on every planet and every future we know. I'm still looking for that machine gun from 2001: A Space Odyssey. If Virginia were here, she'd tell us where it was. At any rate, I thought he did fine, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. Rachel Tipton played Melina. Okay. She was pretty good. I enjoyed her in that role. Kept it kind of combatish type of thing. Sharon Stone as Lori, not bad. I think she did quite well. A lot of people just kind of get cinematic headaches whenever she's in something. But I thought she did fine. My favorite character actors were in there. We had Ronnie Cox as the governor of the Martian colony. I always like him. Ronnie Cox can play. Nobody else can play Ronnie Cox like Ronnie Cox. He plays the same role and everything, and I think he was tapped because the director who ended up doing this film also directed RoboCop, which is what he was in, playing the RoboCop, like the mayor or something. Same thing, right? Another one of my favorites to watch is Michael Ironside. He's another one, character actor that plays Michael Ironside and everything. He's always fun to watch as the guy trying to wipe out Arnold throughout the film as the henchman. Marshall Bell, who played George in the Quanto voice, I guess, the mutant leader. I like that. I liked his voice at the end with the Quanto character, which was pretty cool, just before he got shot in the head twice. First with the first guy and then the second time. With his twin brother George there. It was interesting. I thought it was an interesting character. He pulled it off pretty well. Let me see. Some of the other characters. Roy Brocksmith as Dr. Edgemar. He's the guy that got injected into the dream and told him that reality is reality and you're in the memory world right now. That guy appeared in Star Trek The Next Generation as an annoying alien. He's much better in this. He died at an early age. I think he was only 56 when he died from complications from diabetes. But his short work and some of the things he's done is always memorable. His voice is very identifiable even under a ton of makeup from, like, Star Trek. So I enjoyed him. And then, of course, Robert Picardo, which we all know from Voyager as the doctor, the holographic doctor. I think it's Voyager, yeah. He's coming back in a series as a holographic doctor in the 26th century or something. For Starfleet Academy coming up in January, so you get a chance to see him there again. Very good actor, very enjoyable in things he's done. He was in Inner Space, which I think was another one of those for RoboCop. So as you can see, these character actors have a tendency to get to play in other directors, producers, movies because they know what to expect and know they'll deliver the performance that they need. So enjoy that quite a bit. I also like the thing, that nice touch that they made the Johnny Cab likeness look just like Robert Picardo, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't know what Robert Picardo thought when he was decapitated from the car, but even still, pretty cool. So there's a lot of lighthearted parts about it that make it work with the actors, and I love when they make all the characters interesting. The only thing I did not like, and it was on the violence part, is when our character there, Richter, played by Michael Ironside, ended up shooting it's a little too violent because they went overboard. It was sort of cartoonish, but I didn't like that scene very well because it just didn't. I would not have done that. I would have kept with the cartoonish shoot the bad guys that are unknown. But when you start shooting people that are characters that are just innocent bystanders, although I guess the henchmen and people with machine guns are less than innocent, but at the same time not menacing and probably deserve to die type of thing. But when you've got innocent civilians that don't deserve to die, probably I didn't like that. So my Michael Ironside, I like the character. Richter kind of lost my interesting favor after that, after he's been beat up all the time by Cohagen's yelling and screaming at him for being incompetent. That scene probably, I was not sympathetic to his cause at that point. All right, well, with that, let's go ahead. Third round, we got plenty of time. We're way ahead of the game, so I guess that's what happens sometimes. So we'll go third round. We'll start at the top. This one, you can talk about anything you want. We can discuss things that have already been discussed and further comment. You can talk about music, talk about the special effects, you can talk about production value, cinematography, sound, any of the technical aspects of making the film, or something you noticed that you thought was pretty cool that maybe the rest of us need to know about. This is your opportunity. We'll start with Tony. And Tony had a bunch of stuff you want to talk about. NT5PM from KE5ICX.
Oh, yes, I did. Because let me tell you, Mars doesn't look like that. If you go outside during the day, I mean, here in the central time zone at least, it's really dark. You won't see anything. But if you were to go outside during the day, you'd notice that the sky directly overhead is a very dark blue, and the blue gets lighter as you go to the horizon, and then it gets kind of white or brown, depending on how much dust is in the air that day. Mars is like that. The sky right at the edge of the horizon is red, and then as you tilt up even slightly, it gets blue and then very dark blue and black. Because the atmosphere of Mars is thin and holds almost no dust. Yes, I know there's talk about space probes and planetary dust storms, but compared to the atmosphere of Earth, the atmosphere of Mars is very thin. And so it goes from like reddish to blue to black very quickly. So the fact that they keep shooting through this like really thick red gel, like the red lens of a pair of 3D glasses, is kind of alarming to me, because if you really look at like Viking imagery or from any of the Mars rovers, that's not what Mars looks like. It's red near the horizon and black if you look straight up. That's my first round 3 objection, is that's just not what the sky of Mars looks like. Now let's talk about my other round 3 objection. I've touched on this during Skynet, actually. We talked about like would your eyes explode or your, pop out on Skynet. And I remember talking with Chaz about how, there's not a lot of difference between pressure accidents at 40,000 feet and pressure accidents at 60,000 feet and pressure accidents in space. People's eyes don't do that. Yes, you do feel a weird tingling sensation as the saliva boils in your mouth. That's well documented. But your face just doesn't do that. You try to breathe and you can't, and after a few seconds you lose consciousness. It's just this thing movies do, I guess, to create drama. Hypoxia does not work that way. Vacuum injuries don't work that way. Your eyeballs don't actually triple in size. What you discover is that your lungs unfortunately work both ways. You can't hold your breath when there's just vacuum outside. You lose consciousness really fast. You feel kind of euphoric apparently. You feel the saliva boiling in your mouth, and unless you're very lucky, you never wake up again. Fortunately, the Air Force pilots and astronauts who've experienced those astronauts did get to wake up again. They were not characters in this movie. So, no, your tongue doesn't stick out like that. Your eyeballs don't double in size. Your face doesn't get really weird and kinky and ride around like that. Death by hypoxia is just not that exciting. Not that I want to try it. So, yeah, I think they really exaggerated that for... I don't know, were they trying to make me laugh? Because they actually made me laugh. They exaggerated that for hysterical effect. They got the shooting through a thick red gel all wrong. I enjoyed the movie anyway. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. And don't go away. We may have another round or something. Who knows? You may have additional comments because we got the time. Next up, Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, you remember anything about special effects, music, you name it? So go ahead from KE5, ICX.
WB5OZL. I don't specifically remember the music exactly. I do remember it was pretty good. It's Goldsmith, so can't go wrong with that. Yeah, so many movies. But, you know, most of the movies that got it wrong, this is before we went to Mars with our little rovers. So we're just guessing. And, you know, so we're just guessing what it would be like. We don't know. And they're still doing that some, but I'm sorry, there's some kind of disturbance going on outside. Yeah, they're better at it now than they used to be, because it would just be laughable. But still, they're trying to make it exciting, so they sort of take license with the facts and the science. And so many science fiction movies do that. Yeah, I thought the special effects generally were pretty good. They obviously put a lot of money into this. And sorry about that. The budget of 48 to 80 million and made 261 million. So obviously what they're doing is working. Okay, that's all I got for now. Well, maybe for good. And WB5OZL.
Thank you, Brenda. Next up, Nicholas, NR6TT. Same question to you. Anything you want to talk about? Special effects, music, sound effects, something we missed on the first two rounds, you name it. You get to talk about it from KE5, ICX.
I mean, I think we are spoiled by the times that we live in. It is noteworthy that this film was made in 1990 and was hailed unanimously for having ground-breaking visual effects. And I remember the first time I watched it, I certainly wasn't thinking this doesn't look realistic, this doesn't look believable. I thought it looked pretty spectacular. So I think it's just a sign of the times looking back. Clearly a movie that made a great impression, perhaps not for the reasons that some would have liked it to. I think there's a fantastic scene that has caught many people's attention when Arnold Schwarzenegger shoots Sharon Stone in the forehead and says, consider that a divorce. But definitely a movie that has staying power. And yeah, like I mentioned, I think the special effects, given the tooling available at the time, they gave it a pretty good effort. But that is the sum total of my thoughts. Back to the net, November, Romeo 6, Tango Tango.
All right, thank you, Nicholas. Good points, and I wrote some notes because it reminded me of some things I wanted to talk about. Thank you. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. You always got good comments about the special effects and all that. Go, you're up.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I'm not sure I got a lot this time around, but obviously the science in this wasn't very accurate, as Tony very clearly pointed out. But typically most of the science in any of Arnold's movies isn't very realistic. But yeah, no, obviously everybody, the famous eye-popping scene, everybody remembers that. I think they even used it on the trailer, because usually if you mention this movie, people remember two things. The famous saying, you know what, to Mars, and they remember the space scene, if they don't remember anything else. So, yeah, not very realistic, but at the time, I think they were really just kind of showing off effects, to be honest with you. I think they wanted to show what they could do. And at the time, I do remember being fairly impressed with the overall effects in this movie. It holds up pretty good. Looking back now, I mean, you can definitely watching it. I sat there and watched it last night, and you watch it on your high-resolution screens and what have you, and you can tell clearly those are rubber masks and prosthetics, and, it's not quite as realistically looking as you maybe remembered seeing it 30 years ago. But still, I think overall, they obviously it was up for awards for this, or it did win an award. So the effects were, actually, I thought actually pretty good. I kind of enjoy the old school practical effects of, just even just a machine they put him in to go into the dream world or plant the memories. That was, it wasn't just CG. Today they would just have him sitting in a metal chair, and all that just would have been fake. They actually built sets, and I think it's still hard to beat physical sets. And I still think that makes it look a lot better. I think where the actual CG came in was probably more the sky and all that. When they showed the mountain and that you could kind of tell that was probably the digital part. But overall, I thought the practical effects were decent, especially for the time. So I thought it was good. The music, actually thinking about it, I was sitting here when Brenda brought it up, I really don't remember a lot about the music. I do remember there was music. I just can't place it, but I'm sure it was good. And obviously or otherwise it didn't stick out as being, working against the movie. So, all in all, pretty good. So, that's all I got for this round. Back to net. Sorry, I don't have a whole lot more about any particular scenes. I probably should take notes. Anyway, back to that. KB9S, okay.
Well, that wasn't too bad. I think you picked out some pretty good stuff out of that. In fact, everybody did. So I wrote down a bunch of notes while you were talking. That's because the great thing about being in net control for this is, and the reason I kind of sign up for it all the time is I get to listen to everybody's comments and I go, oh yeah, I remember that, and then write down some notes to follow on because I didn't take any notes while watching the movie, even though I should, simply because there's a lot to go through on a movie of any length, and it's kind of nice to know, but I'm too lazy and usually too tired, and sometimes I fall asleep in the middle of the movie, so there's no notes and no recollection. No recall, that would be me, as opposed to total recall. That would be Arnold. Okay, let's see here. I'll go ahead and do my niceties first, and I'll probably be left with silence. But if there's somebody else out there who would like to check in, tonight's movie we're talking about is Total Recall from 1990. The good one, not the bad reboot from 2017. So if you're out there and you'd like to join us, or you just want to say you're out there listening, that's okay too. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see the film?
W5BLT, Bill. I did not see the movie. The link on Pluto I think wasn't working for me, but I did find a audio reading of the script, so I'm going through that. Just wanted to give you a check-in. I don't really have too much to say on the movie because, like I said, I didn't get to see the actual movie itself, but I am going through the audio reading, W5BLT.
Oh, okay, Bill. Well, I know you got to kind of slog through our stuff that's doubly difficult. We make it difficult for you, probably on purpose. I don't know, or accidentally on purpose. I don't know. But anyway, but thanks for checking in, and I'm sure you'll be here next week as well, and every week after that, as you've been for the last several years. Welcome back. All right. Well, my comments on the film, thanks to all of you for reminding me of things. Starting with Tony, he mentioned atmosphere. I was thinking about the mountainside. One of the things about this film is it came out in 1990. Now, we've been sending stuff to Mars since 1976 to the surface, and we've had stuff in orbit around Mars since 1970, I think it was, that they, I think Tony even remembers, I can't remember the mission number, but it was the Mariner mission. It did an orbital, and so we, even in 1990, while we know a lot about Mars today, we knew a lot about Mars back in 1990 as well, and they kind of dismissed all of that and created their own kind of look. The mountainsides were very sharp and dramatic and all that, and I just, I don't think so. It kind of reminded me of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and that scene with the mountainsides that were very jagged, and that is the same look, in fact. And I think that film inspired that look, which neither is correct, neither for the Moon or for Mars, but there it is anyway. Let me see, music was mentioned, and Jerry Goldsmith, my favorite composer for motion pictures, if anybody knows me, he particularly liked doing this score, I think. The theme music, the main theme music that you hear at the very beginning and very end of the film, it appears on just about every anthology album that Jerry Goldsmith ever did after 1990. So he liked it, he put it in there. I think there are better ones that he's done through the years. Certainly Patton was one, and gosh, I can't remember. Oh well, it doesn't matter. I'm drawing a blank. I'll find it later. It's not important, but there are other films with better scores. But this is still a memorable one, at least the theme. I recognized it instantly when I heard it. Let me see. Practical effects. I love the practical effects in this film. They were a lot of fun to watch. I think that there have been, the Thing does a better job with it, but it is admirable, and it's convincing enough for me. I enjoyed it quite a bit. There was the only digital effects that I know that for sure that they did was the X-ray machine, which was pretty good. It looked a little fakeish, but, X-ray would look like that anyway, so I think that maybe was deliberate. Plus, they just didn't have the digital technology to be able to do all fully rendered stuff way back then. So it looked pretty good. The goofiness, I thought, was all of the CRTs. Now, that was a practical thing, simply because you could do this without having to digitally insert or rotoscope in all the effects. You just simply put them on screen. And all of that was readily available, and it looks very 1990-ish, 90-ish late. Humor, when they went into the office, and the secretary is there, and she's typing away on a typewriter. It's actually a 60 series memory writer. I worked for Xerox back then, and we were selling those things. And over CIS. They were very popular because nobody could afford computers back then, but that typewriter was very popular, very popular. So, lots and lots of them. And apparently into the whatever future we have on Total Recall, they continue to use them with reckless abandon. Another thing I saw, I love the cars. And some of those cars I've seen elsewhere. I think that they may be real cars. That little one with the gull-wing doors on it, that looks familiar to me. I was going to do a Google search on this stuff, but I took a nap instead. That's why I'm so animated and awake, because I took a nap before the Skynet, so I'm awake rather than falling asleep for a change. But I think there's that. I also thought it was interesting, the van that the henchmen were in, where they all jump out with their machine guns and start blazing away. That one also had two gull-wing doors, and that looks suspiciously like a Popular Mechanics, I think it was, Popular Mechanics build-your-own car thing from about 1976, 75, and I'm going to go look it up and see. I'm probably wrong, but I remember this, and it's kind of fun to mention, is I remember as a kid, as a teenager, I thought that was so cool. It had the gull-wing doors, it was kind of boxy, and you built it on the VW frame. So you could use a bus, although if you had the bus, you'd keep the bus. But if you had the car version, you could put that boxy frame on top of it with the gull-wing doors. And I vividly remember that it was painted in red, and they put surfboards on top and all that stuff to entice you into thinking, hey, this is pretty cool. But that's what it looked like. I could be wrong, and quite honestly, I think it'd be a lot of fun to go back and find out what some of those objects are in the background, because there is a lot of practical effects in this movie. I love Mars Today. That was fun. Seeing that, it's done up like USA Today. And in fact, they are credited at the end of the motion picture. And I think, what was it? Hilton hotels were credited in the film, and a few others. Very 2001 product placement type stuff, which was the novelty in that film. But it comes back, it's always kind of cool to see the future. Now, the problem with future is, of course, if your product placement and you actually reach it to that future, good luck with that, because in 2001, almost none of the companies survived into the 21st century as they did in the film. So there you have it. Anyone? Let me see what else we got. Oh, cars said that. Guns in the glass domes. Who the hell allows people with bring machine guns to Mars and glass domes? And by the way, why is the glass so fragile? I would think that there would be pressure that would cause the glass, but they practically shoot one bullet and it shatters. And when you do see it shattering, it's not very thick at all. And when they have multiple frames, even Space 1999, he alluded to the fact that it had multiple frames, even though they never really used them correctly, in the windows to help protect the poor people that got beat up every week by evil aliens trying to smash the windows. But, I just thought I'd mention that. The windows were rather fragile. In fact, everything was fragile in that thing. Other things I thought that was rather cool is it did have this action-adventure, but sort of this little bit of a film noir feel to it, in the sense that all the characters are very colorful and the places are seedy and all that. And we saw that in, of course, Blade Runner, which I think probably did inspire this film. And then I think the inspiration a little bit for Babylon 5, the television series, and the space station and its inhabitants and the close proximity to everything, also played well in this film that way, even though the sets had many sets and massive sound stages. It had the appropriate kind of claustrophobic feel to it in different places, mainly because it's practical and no digital effects to make it big, although there were some areas where a lot of open space that makes no sense when you've got to recycle air that you got to buy from the bad guy anyway. A lot of wasted space in some scenes. But overall, pretty cool. Was it uneven? Yeah, it was uneven, but there were some pretty good special effects in there. So overall, I enjoyed the film quite a bit. I thought it had a lot going for it. And I'll watch it again and again. It's good caramel corn stuff. Don't think about it too hard. We know the science really is terrible. By the way, the moons of Phobos and Deimos are, well, of course, the one was a dream sequence. Maybe it did show up later on. Way too big to be in the sky, and it wouldn't be sitting there stationary like that. But it was still nice to give it that otherworldly look. All right, that's my say. Does anybody have anything they would like to add this evening, or any comments? Bill, that includes you, W5GLT, if you have anything you would like to say. Anybody got anything, please come to your call now.
I just want to mention that I love Babylon 5, NT5TM.
Well, thank you, Tony. It's one of my favorite series. I've got the entire thing on DVD, and I put it on my media server, and many times I'll just, if I'm looking to fill an hour or 45 minutes of my time, I'll just pick an episode randomly, and very rarely am I disappointed, like never. And I will watch, there's so many of those episodes, five seasons, and I think it's like 6 2-hour movies, and the 2-hour pilot, there's a lot of material there, and they're all good. They're really entertaining. And special effects sometimes are iffy because they're at the leading edge of that with a low budget, but I'll tell you something, it's really a fun series to watch. Okay, are you ready? Next week's movie, we go back to 1966, and we'll be watching Fantastic Voyage with Raquel Welch and Donald Pleasance and some other people I can't recall. But that's the movie. It's available, I think it's on YouTube this month, and maybe more. Decent copy in color. It should be a good film to watch again. I saw it in the theaters back. That's how old I am. I'm old. I saw it in the theaters with hecklers. There were some hecklers that made ushers had to take them out because they were making fun of the little tiny toy submarine. And they said, ouch! And they threw them out. The Birmingham Theater back in Michigan. Okay. With that, I'm going to say 7-3, everybody. Thank you for your participation and comments this evening. Don't forget. By the way, I've restarted a web page, what the hell is it? Facebook page. I lost control of the Facebook page. That's why there's been no updates for the last few months, and I was mad at Facebook because of what happened. Part of it was my fault, a lot of it was their fault, and as a result, I couldn't get any cooperation or help from them, so I just started boycotting them. But I decided I'd go ahead and restart it. I'll give you the information in the email tomorrow, and I'll start putting it in all of the usual places for people to find. Let's see if we can beef up participation again. I think this time of the year it kind of happens this way. Football comes in, gets dark. I don't know. There's just the alignment of the stars somehow, and participation drops off for a little bit, and then as time goes on, it starts to pick up again as the winters get longer and longer, nights get longer and longer. So hopefully this is just a temporary thing, and we get more folks back again. Although, to be honest with you, we're coming up on the midnight hour anyway, so I guess we managed to fill our almost 90 minutes this evening. So with that, I'm going to stop rambling, and I'm going to go limp to bed. I had a race today, and they went over the new Harbor Bridge here in Corpus Christi, and I'm hurting quite a bit. So hopefully I'll get better. We'll see. So good night, everyone. Had a good time. We'll see you all here, same bat time, same bat station next week. And this is KE5I6, and now clear. Nicholas, NR6TT, come on back. And we'd love to have you here. You get the extra advantage of 2 more hours. It's not 12 o'clock for you. It's just getting 10 o'clock your time, which is kind of nice. So 7-3, everybody. This is KE5I6, now clear.